video and what you did in the race on Saturday was basically this. So in the video from Tuesday, the practice video, your positions and the flow of you going over the hurdle was pretty much exactly the same thing you were doing when you were going over these low guys here. And I'm going to show you, and the positions and everything were the same. So if we look at when you were going over those and we look at the flow of your body and the positions, then all you did on Tuesday was pretty much do that exact same thing over a 39-inch hurdle or whatever, right? And so then when you got to the 42, you didn't do that same thing. You changed it. And most likely just because the hurdle's a little bit higher and it looks different, it feels different. So I played around with it, and to be honest, when I set up a 42-inch hurdle in front of me, it looked different, and it looked like I couldn't do the same thing. And so in my head, it was really kind of screwing around with me. I couldn't visualize how am I going to do that same thing, okay? But basically what ended up happening was, I did it over the little low hurdle top and said, okay, this is a position that I want to be in coming off the hurdle, and then I just went for it, and I could do the same thing. Now, how exactly that happens, I can't particularly say. All I know is because I intended to come off the hurdle in a certain position, then I was able to do it. And so that's kind of what I was saying to you is that, number one, I think it's a visualization, mental kind of thing that is throwing you off and making you feel like you need to do something different to get that extra 3 inches of height when you really don't. You just need to just consider it as a slightly higher wicket or a slightly higher hurdle top and do the same thing, intending to feel the same motions and to especially make sure that your trail leg is doing the same thing. And the main thing that is changing with your trail leg and throwing everything off is when you are doing the hurdle top drill, you're going into the hurdle and then you're coming off like this. So you're kind of in this position. So you're hitting it and then you're doing that, right? And that's kind of what we practice. So you're running up and then that, right? That feeling, this, is pretty much exactly what you were doing on Tuesday. And that's what you need to do over the 42-inch. So just literally feeling like you want to land like this and then go here. And what's happening is on Saturday, you weren't going here, you were going here, right? So you were still doing this, but then finishing here, right? So that made you have to stand up and do a lot of other things. It basically took everything from going, if you look at it sideways, it took everything from going like this, because that's this. So that leaves me in this position, kind of down, coming over the hurdle. But if I go here and my intent is to finish with my knee up in front of me and my foot up in front of me, then I'm like this. I'm up more, and I'm going to end up sitting more coming off the hurdle, which is kind of what you were feeling. And once I do that, when I go into the next hurdle, I'm going to be sitting like that too, and everything won't be coming down over the hurdle. Everything is going to be coming kind of up over the hurdle in a way, right? So, when you're doing this drill, you're going up, boom, right? Boom, and the fact that you're kind of leaving your trail leg here brings you down into this position, right? But when I do the same thing, so I'm picking my foot up and I'm doing the same thing, but I'm ending it here. So if I go that, then I'm ending like this, right? So if I go there, then I'm ending more up, right? And from there, then I'm going to step. And the whole thing is going to take longer, but it's also not going to be going over the hurdle in the same way. So in the one way, if I'm going and then I'm coming off like this, I'm going over the hurdle like this. And the other way, if I'm coming off like this, then I'm coming off the hurdle kind of, I'm standing up earlier. And so rather than coming off and continuing that run, I flatten more out because my lead leg is going to do something very different. And I'll show you the video. So basically, in a nutshell, that's really all it is. So what you need to do is, I would do a lot of that with the low hurdles, or some facsimile turn hurdles over or something, so you can do it, and really like get that feeling and understanding that when I say do this and land, it's not just a thought. This is kind of really what you want to feel, because that pulls you in the right position to finish off like that and run up, right? This is different than this, right? This is more, it takes longer for me to go here, and here before I land. That takes longer than that, right? And so that's what's happening is it took you a really long time to get over the hurdle, because again, even though your trail leg was doing a better path, it was still trying to do the whole thing before you hit the ground, in which most of the time you were doing the whole thing before you hit the ground. But in doing so, it rotates everything back and has you sitting longer on top of the hurdle instead of going and coming off the hurdle and then taking that next step. So that's really what was going on. And again, when you go to a 42, you're used to it at a 39 or whatever. So when you go to a 42, it looks different, and it looks like, it looks like you can't attack it and go here. It looks like you need to go more here to get things up, but that's just a lie. It's an illusion. It's an illusion, and because it's only 3 inches, and if you can do exactly the same thing over 24 inches and then go up 39 and do exactly the same thing. And I'll show you this. It's exactly the same thing, just like you ran over that at 39 inches. So to go up 3 more inches, it ain't enough to completely change everything, but that's what's happening. It's completely changing. Furthermore, what happens, the reason that you get into it later in the race, again, is because for whatever reason, like on Tuesday, you started more kind of here, but then you ended up more here. So everything like picked up speed just from those positions. So just understanding that even from hurdle 1, you want to be here and boom, coming off that first hurdle, here, not here, not there. That's going to change everything. It's going to change your spine. It's going to make you have to get up more, and it's going to be really hoppy to go. That's basically what you're doing, right? That's what I mean by hoppy, as opposed to just going right like that, which is kind of what you were doing before. So that's not that big of a deal, but it's definitely something that you need to spend time with over the 42 so that you can wipe that illusion out of your mind about what's possible and what's not possible. Because you really don't have to change anything. It's a little bit higher, but as long as you're thinking about the position that I want to be in coming off, then you can work it out. You can work it out. Your trail leg is not it's not meant to be way up here in front of you like that. It needs to be more like back here. So that's kind of where it is, kind of here. That's my knee is forward. When I'm looking at it like this, it looks like my trail leg is still back, but it's not. My knee is forward. It doesn't need to be like this. That automatically makes me sit back, okay, which is what you said you were feeling, okay? Okay, so just in terms of getting a mental idea or image in your head of what it is that you want to be doing, regardless of the size of the hurdle, So I want to explain what you need to do to get yourself in the right positions to go over the 42-inch hurdle. And basically what I want you to understand, and we're going to go through it, and I'll talk you through it, you know, now and in another video. But you know, we went through this process when you were here to sort of redirect and retrain your trail leg, and to you know, get it from not only opening up with your adductor and pulling through with the adductor, but also that it doesn't need to be way out in front of you completely and totally when your feet land, right? And that's a big part of what helps you get into the right position coming off the hurdle. Because if you're going to be working to get your shin parallel in front of you, then it's going to completely change what you have to do position wise, and you're not going to be able to go over the hurdle the same way. And the higher the hurdle gets, the more detrimental that's going to be. And that's really what made things kind of hoppy. It's not that you were doing anything wrong, it's just positionally everything changed. And that, along with the fact that you were really getting that trail leg all the way around again, and it was, you know, that's always going to slow the lead leg down as far as getting to the ground, and it's always going to make you have to stand up and sit back more. Okay, so you know, one of the best things I think we ever did was to set this drill up and have you run through these things and work on landing, you know, landing with the trail leg sort of out. Okay, and you know, I had the pictures. Let's find it since we're here. We'll go ahead and find it. So that photo on the right, that's kind of your landing position. I mean, that's not just when you're going over these little bitty hurdles, but that's kind of where you're working towards regardless of the size of the hurdle. And so that position right there is what allows you to come down to the ground and for your lead leg to get on the ground. If you're going to bring your shin all the way to parallel, then it's going to rotate your lumbar under you, and you're going to be sitting back more, and it's going to also, with sitting back, will be keeping your lead leg up in the air longer, and everything is going to, the angles of everything is going to change. And it could have been that the height of the hurdle visually, well, I won't say it could have been, I'm pretty sure it was. The visual height of the hurdle being a little bit higher in your mind sort of made you think that you had to do something different in terms of getting your foot up over it. And really that was kind of more of a visualization thing, because at the end of the day, what you were doing over 39 is pretty much exactly what you were doing here. Taking off and landing is pretty much exactly like these wickets right here. It feels the same, it looks the same, and the flow of your body over the hurdle is totally different. So the flow of your body goes, you know, run through and then off, and so you're always forward and coming down off the hurdle, and that trail leg is not out in front of you with the shin down. That's not where it goes. So we're over, it comes out and around, and then you're coming down, but it's still kind of out to the side. It's not all the way around. If it comes all the way around, then you're going to have to change positions at takeoff in order for that to happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. You're not going to be able to take off, you know, in this position and have that happen. You're going to have to swing your lead leg up more, because your intention is to have that trail leg all the way around when it comes down. And so that's not really what we want, you know. And so the flow of it, I don't know if this video is going to show well. Yeah, so you know, you can look at that flow and see how your arms move and how your body moves, and how, you know, you move through the hurdle and how you come off the hurdle, and everything flows very fluidly, right? But the thing I want you to see is that when you're coming off the hurdle, you're coming down. Okay, your body is shaping itself downward, even though your spine is not necessarily bending, but you're going over the hurdle and coming down over the hurdle, just like so. You're stepping over this wicket. Now, when you go over the 39, if you look at the flow of this video, you're doing exactly the same thing, although the size of the wicket went from 24 inches to 39. But if you look at your body and how everything flows into positions, it's exactly the same thing. And I think it was exactly the same thing because we had done a lot of this before you went back, and then this was your first day hurdling back, and so you kind of was, that rhythm and that flow was kind of locked in, you know. And so when I look at this video, it's the same thing. It's higher, but it's the same thing. It's higher, so when you're coming off the hurdle, you know, it's down, and that trail leg, let's go back one, it's not swinging all the way around in front of you. If it did, then you could never do that. You could never do that if it's swinging down around in front of you. So by the time you get here, which is kind of where you would, equivalent to where you would land if you were doing like the regular wicket, then it's kind of still out to the side, land, and then working its way to the front there where you can run. And so if we look at this full speed, the flow of it, it's the same thing as this. It's the same thing. We'll look at both of them again. You can see there's no difference. It is exactly 100% the same thing, although the height is way higher. But the flow and what you intend to do, it's exactly 100% the same thing. And you can do that same thing over a wicket that's 3 inches higher than the 39 inch, which is, so basically mentally, you have to understand that you have this wicket here, and then you've already proven that you can do the exact same thing over a 39 inch wicket. And so I'm telling you that you can do the same thing over a 42 inch wicket. You can do the same thing. And so that's kind of what you have to have in your mind, is that it can be done. And I believe this is the best way for you to hurdle. This is what your body kind of wants to do. You're doing things that I would have not told you to do, but it all has a flow to it that really works and allows you to move fluidly and quickly between the hurdles. Okay, so I'm not trying to change anything. That's why I said I feel like my work is done. And it's really simple, because you can spend a day doing this and you may as well be running over a 39 or a 42 at some point, because at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. It's just a bigger hurdle, but you're doing the same thing. Okay, so enough of that. So that's kind of where this thing is headed. So we kind of look at kind of where things went south, and so let's look at this, and we have the other one, which is the one we just did, big wickets. Well, doing it right, doing it wrong, and doing it right, doing it wrong. So the difference between these two, I'm going to put them side by side. I already set them up to where frame by frame they're doing exactly the same. You know, we're going frame by frame so you can see what's going on. So running into the hurdle, you're pretty much doing the same thing. The one on the left from Saturday, you're sitting back more because you're already into the race and you've already gotten into this hoppy kind of a flow. But by and large, you can still see what happens when on the right you're just running over a big wicket, and on the left you completely adjusting everything you do for that wicket. So as I move forward frame by frame, right here you can see on the right you're already stepping over this wicket, right? Everything is already starting to come down, where over on the left everything is kind of flattening out and working its way up. Again,
If I go through, you can see how on the right, everything is working down just like you do over the little 24-inch wicket. Whereas on the left, everything is taking an angle that's kind of more just going out in this direction. It's just going out away from the hurdle. It's not going like over the hurdle like that. So so frame by frame, we leave the ground, and then on the wicket you would be on the ground there, and with the trail leg on the right, you see the trail leg is pretty much in exactly the same position. The foot is still back. It's not out in front of you, and the trail leg is not the knee is in front, but the shin is not perpendicular. And another important point is that the foot is back. So at this point, you're almost on the ground, because your arc, your intent was completely different than over here on the right. Over here on the right, the same number of frames pass, but you're nowhere near getting on the ground. And in the flow of it, you're still kind of headed out. Secondly, as you're coming over the hurdle, you're staying down on the right, and you're already having to stand up to accommodate getting that leg all the way around over on the right. So it's a visualization thing. For whatever reason, when the hurdle went up, you didn't see yourself able to do that. So because you didn't see yourself being able to do that, then basically what you ended up doing was kind of something that was going to do this, and then end up taking you sort of like out beyond the hurdles. Like right here, your foot is up on both of them. Your foot is up on the right, and your foot is up on the left. And then immediately it goes down on the right, but on the left, your upper body is kind of doing the same thing, but it's doing it from a different angle. That's what I was saying. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, but the angle of it is different. So when you do this move on the right, it's taking you down. When you do that, your arms and your upper body is kind of trying to do the same thing on the left, but it's not taking you down. It's taking you parallel over the hurdle. So on the right, your lead leg is already like down here, and over here on the left, you're still basically sitting on top of the hurdle and behind the hurdle. And that's really just all happening because of kind of your perception about what you needed to do. From here, you were thinking more in terms of I need to, at least that's what I was doing. I was thinking more initially in terms of I need to get my foot up a little bit more. And over here, you're just running that wicket. You're just running that wicket, and your intent over here on the right side is not about what you're doing over here at takeoff. Your intent is to come off there. So because you intend to come off the hurdle right there, then you do it differently. And over here, on the left, your intent was to get your foot up, right? So everything changes. The whole flow of the hurdle clearance changes. So that's really what was going on with that. This hoppiness. So I mean, the running, it was good. Actually, you were running like some 145s, which is 0.42, which was as fast as Freddie ever ran in it. Freddie had like stupid quick hurdle clearance, like 56 on damn near all of them. But the running was still no faster than what you were doing. So it's, yours, you were just spending forever getting over this hurdle. And then with the hoppiness, it was a lot of braking in that too, because everything was going up in the air. And I also think that, you were too close to the hurdle, and all this is all part of the same thing. I think if you intend to come off the hurdle differently, then you'll take off further back, because you got to kind of make that happen, right? But you can see how it's up, you're kind of, it looks like you're kicking up. Now the guy to your right, he really is kicking up. He may as well be kicking a football, and I don't necessarily think you're kicking up. It's just you're intending to get your lead leg up over the hurdle and then get that all the way around. So it ends up being that exact same thing that I was talking about that Merritt was doing. Up and over, and now you're back on the ground, but you're sitting. Now you're stuck in a sitting position that you got to run up out of, right? Whereas with this, when you're coming off here, and well, this is the wrong one. Let me get the one where we can see you coming off. Train stuff, doing it right. Yeah. That's still not it. Big wickets. Training stuff, big wickets. So here. So again, when you come off here, you come off and there's no up. When you're pushing, it's pushing your hips straight forward, right? It's pushing your hips straight forward and into the run. Whereas here, because you're coming off the hurdle, you know, in this way, then it's pushing you up in the air, you know, again, and then you got to land and recover from that. So all that between just it taking you longer just to get your lead leg back on the ground, and then it taking even longer for you to get back into this position, because it's like almost like you hurdle twice. It's almost like you hurdle over it and then you land and then you get bumped up again like a second time like that, you know, which, you know, all that's just adding more time, you know. So, you know, that's what I meant about the hoppiness. You know, you can clearly see it's like hop up and then over, you know, where the whole thing has to complete itself before you get back to the ground, right? And that just, you know, you have to change positions in order to make that happen, okay? And just like the guy next to you, he's hoppy kicking up, and so he's kind of landing in exactly the same position you are, you know, which is not a favorable position, you know. Whereas, you know, not that you hurdle like Zaza or Cameron, but you know, they intend to come off the hurdle down there, so then they're attacking it differently and they're coming off the hurdle differently, right? Not that you're going to attack the hurdle like that, you know. Well, I'm not saying you are or aren't. All I'm saying is you're going to come off the hurdle, you're going to run the hurdle like you run them little wickets, you know, and whatever that is, you know. Once you run the little wickets and you get a feel for what your body is doing and how you want to come off, and your hands are moving a certain way and you're bending at a certain time and there's a certain just like flow in your body that's like perfect. And so that's what you want to do no matter what the hurdle size is. If you're working over, you know, banana hurdles, or if you're working over, you know, hurdle tops, or if you're working over 40, you know, 33s or 30s, or, you know, 39s or 42s, it should be the same thing. It should be about, you know, getting that flow, getting that right positioning, getting in the right position coming off the hurdle. That's the big thing for you, is what is my coming off the hurdle position gonna be? And that'll dictate how you go into the hurdle. And that'll help you fix the first, you know, couple hurdles, because now you kind of, you know, have a better idea or something to run into the hurdle with, which is how you want to come off the hurdle, you know, as opposed to trying to get in the right position and take off and all that. I think, you know, the problem with the first hurdle, it is probably more related to, we need to think more about how we want to be coming off that first hurdle instead of how we want to be taking off into it, you know. So give that up, forget about the takeoff, so to speak, and let's think more in terms of where we want to be finishing, and let that kind of dictate the takeoff and what it should all feel like as it flows through. Okay, so, you know, it's not like a huge thing. You're like I said before, you're close. I mean, you're even with, you know, this, you're doing this. Your body is doing the same thing that you're doing over the wickets, but it's just like if the ground was here, you know, you kind of be doing the same thing, but the ground is in a different place, and so you just need to shape everything, you know, to accommodate for that little bit of extra height. And the way that you do that is not by doing anything different in terms of your takeoff or whatever. I don't know exactly, you know, what the lead leg should do and the trail leg should do this and the foot should do this. All I know is coming off, you want to be in this position. You want to be in this position coming off. You do not want to be in a position with that shin parallel and all the way around in front of you, because then your butt's going to be rolled up under you and you're going to be sitting. And then once you get into that position, that affects how you take off at the next hurdle. You're going to have to you're going to already be sitting, so you're going to be sitting when you go into that hurdle. I kind of was doing it, and I couldn't get out of that position once I kind of went into that. And that's the way hurdles are. The position you start off, you kind of get stuck into it. So that you can work on that. And I think you can clean that up. And spend a lot of time going over the low hurdle wickets or whatever, and then take that up to 42 and just say, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. And it's gonna take you a minute to get used to your foot being back there, because you're always in the past have needed to get your foot out in front of you because of how you were bringing your trail leg through with your adductors. So for your foot to be there, in the past, your foot would be hitting the hurdle. But now, if you're coming off the hurdle, shaping it like this, your foot is clear of the hurdle. And so you have to get used to the fact that your foot at this point is clear of the hurdle. It's not going to come down on the hurdle. It's already cleared the hurdle, but it's behind you. And you've never really come off the hurdle with your foot like behind you like that. You've just never done that. So I can understand why you feel like you need to be in a different position, especially when the hurdle gets, really high. But you don't. You just don't really understand where your body is in space. So I'm showing you and I'm telling you. And I'm telling you that what you feel when you're going over the little 24-inch hurdles is exactly what you're doing over the 39, and that's exactly what you need to do over the 42. Okay?